Hey guys, this is Mrs. Harbin, and we are continuing to review geometry. We've looked at the different types of polygons, perimeter, and area. Today we're going to take a look at volume. As a reminder, our objective for this whole unit comes down to this, that all things were created by God, and everything that we see or we do not see is part of His ultimate design that holds the universe together. The reason that we are able to apply these formulas and these rules for angles, for sides, for perimeter, for areas, because our God created a universe that is structured and orderly. And even though we can't see the perimeter formula, this is not, like looking at a leaf change color. It's part of that unseen pattern that we use math to describe. Our specific lesson objective is that you, the student, will calculate volume of simple and complex shapes. Now today we're just going to talk about some simple volume formulas, but in class we'll take a look at some more complex shapes like the volume of a sphere or the volume of a cylinder or a cone or a pyramid. But we're just going to keep it simple today to kind of refresh what you already know about volume. So first of all, volume in itself is the amount of three-dimensional space an object occupies. Another word for volume is capacity. And we use volume a lot. When we buy drinks, for example, you might buy a 2 liter. That 2 liters tells how much soda a container can hold. Or when you buy a gallon of milk, you're talking about the capacity of the container. If you ever buy a fish tank and set up a fish tank, you can buy fish tanks in varying capacities or volume. So it's the amount of space that an object can hold or occupies. And volume, unlike area, if you remember area, we had to multiply 2 sides. So it was inches times inches, inches squared, or meters times meters, meters squared. In volume, we're multiplying 3 things. And so if you take a look at this shape, we've got 4 units times 5 units times 10 units. And when we multiply all 3 of those things, height, width, and depth, we get 200, and we would describe it with units cubed because we were having to multiply units times units times units. Some units of volume include cubic centimeters, cubic meters, or liters. That's in a metric system. And fluid ounces, cubic inches, cubic feet, pints, and gallons. All of these are things that you'll encounter in your everyday life, whether you're talking about, my examples already, liters, for example, with soda, or gallons if you're talking about milk, or pints if you're talking about smaller fluids like cream, for example, or half and half. You can also buy mulch or soil in cubic inches and cubic feet. So all of these things are things that you're going to see around in your everyday life. Now, volume is related to area, it just builds on area. If you remember, area was just length times width. It was the amount of surface area. But since volume is 3-dimensional, we want to know not just the surface area, but all of the capacity. We've got to include our third measurement, length by width by height. To convert volume, remember that volume is length by width by height if we're trying to calculate volume. So again, length, width, and height. That's for cubes and for rectangular shapes, not for all shapes. Again, in class, we'll talk about some formulas that you can use to calculate the volume of other types of shapes. But let's start by taking a look at the volume of this cube. A cube has 6 sides, and they're all squares. And what we know about the square is that all the sides are the same. So if one side is equal to S, then all of the sides are equal to S. This is S, and this is S. So to find the volume, you would take S times S times S, length times width times height. In this case, if we made our S's, for example, equal to 6, we would do 6 times 6 times 6, which is 6 cubed, or 216 meters cubed. We said that all of these were meters or other units cubed. Up on our wall in the classroom, you know that we have perfect squares, but we also have some examples of perfect cubes, of 2 cubed, 2 times 2 times 2 being 8, and 4 cubed, and even 6 cubed. So those perfect cubes derive from the fact of this formula of volume. If we're trying to find the volume of a rectangular prism, again, square and rectangular shapes, we just do length times width times height. And we are told that the height is 2 centimeters. That's this measurement right here. The width, or sometimes called the depth, is 3 centimeters. and the length is 6 centimeters. So sometimes you'll see this called depth. This width can also be called depth. And we just are going to take 2 times 3 times 6. That's 36. And then centimeters times centimeters times centimeters is centimeters cubed. Now when we're talking about non-rectangular shapes, like for example this triangular prism, we're still going to do the similar things. If you take a look back at our rectangular prism, what we really were finding was our area, and then we were multiplying that by the height. We found the area of this base, length times width, and then imagine it's like a piece of paper, and you found the area of one piece of paper, but you stack a piece of paper on top of a piece of paper on top of a piece of paper. Keep going until you've got this three-dimensional shape. We multiply that by the height. So we're finding the area, and then we're multiplying it by the height. It's the same with this triangular prism. We're going to find the surface area of the base. In this case, our base is a triangle. So we're going to find the area of that base, and then we're going to multiply it by the height. Now, it's kind of difficult to see here, but the base of this prism is a right triangle. That is a right triangle, which means we don't need to worry about the altitude of the triangle or anything like that. We can just use 1/2 base times height because of that right angle there. So we're going to plug in our numbers to find the area. 1/2 of 6 times 8 is 24. And then we take that 24 and we multiply it by our height of 4. And when we do that, we get 96. We're not given a unit, so 96 units cubed. All right, guys, this one was short and simple. Today we calculated volume of simple and complex shapes. What we're doing when we're finding volume with our cubes, our rectangular prisms, and with our triangular prisms is that we're really just finding the surface area, whether that's base or length times width, or in the case of a triangle, 1/2 the length times the width, 1/2 the base times the height. We're finding that, and then we're multiplying it by that third dimension, that depth or that height of the shape. For cubes and rectangular prisms, it just means you multiply the 3 sides, length, width, height, or length, depth, height. And for the triangular prism, you find the area of the triangle, 1/2 base times the height of the triangle, and multiply that by the depth or the height of the 3-dimensional figure. Remember, when you are calculating volume, because you are multiplying 3 units, that your unit of measure is going to be units cubed. So centimeters cubed, feet cubed, yards cubed, miles cubed, because you're multiplying that unit 3 times. All right, guys, make sure you write down any questions you have, and I'll see you next class.